Hello, everybody. Happy August 27th, 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is a special edition of the CCC Coaches Roundtable. All three of these coaches are coaches of the CCC Conference, and I'll start off with the head coach at Wethersfield, Matt Mckinnon. Coach, say hello.
Hey, Chris. Thank you for having us. Glad to be here.
Next up, I have the guy who's, if he's not wrestling with a bear, he's coaching for Plainville. He's the head coach, Tim Shea. Coach Shea, love to have you back on.
All right, great to be back. Good to see these guys. Shout out to the thread.
Yeah, the thread.
And last but not least, the guy who I texted earlier saying he should have a key to the city. And I'm talking about Platt himself, Jason Bruenn. Coach Bruenn, say hello.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having us. Matt, Tim. Should be a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, I think first and foremost, last night, I'm working. I get out at 8:30, and I have like 8 text messages from numerous people telling me the season's back on, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And I saw the article from the Hartford Courant about how the football committee, mind you, the plan did not change. It's the same plan, but that practice and everything according to what they wanted to before was going to go through, and there was going to be an announcement today, which came about. Coach Mckinnon, what was your thoughts when you heard about that?
We just, it's been a wild month, the back and forth, the playing, the not playing, conditioning, no conditioning, so when, we looked on Twitter and we saw, all the posts talking about the season was a go, we were very optimistic, for the season. The kids were excited, we're ready to go, and we're going to take on the adversity and we're going to get after it. I'm happy for all the athletes in the state, but we were happy that at least right now we have that green light to go ahead and play football.
Coach Shea, what was your reaction? I'm sure the first thing out of your mouth was, is this actually true? Or am I?
There was a couple other things too. Well, it's. I think this whole process, I know these guys can probably attest to it, is it's getting us out of our comfort zones. It's like when we talked in, I think it was May, we're used to having things planned out like entire seasons, our lives, football, just the way it has to be that organized. I think we've found that really can't now, at least for now anyways. We have all these ideas we want to do, and it comes down to, that sort of moment's notice sort of thing. I think a lot of our administrators are kind of in the same boat too. So it's crazy, Yeah, I guess the word fluid is going to be one of those words no one's going to want to say after this is over too. But for now, I think we're ready to go. Let's hope we get the chance.
I think there's a lot of words in 2020 that people don't want to hear. Coronavirus, fluid. What's the other one? Metrics. I think that's another one.
That's a new one. Yeah.
I think
Cohort.
What was the other one?
Cohort.
Yep.
I want to hear that again.
Cautiously optimistic. That's another one that everybody likes to, use, especially away from sports. But Coach Bruenn, I know that, between Mckinnon and Shea, they've both been very active on social media, trying to support the kids and being able to just kind of get their emotions out there about a potential season. And I've seen you post a lot as well, Coach. And I'm sure there were times where you wanted to really say more, but you had to bite your tongue. And when you saw the news yesterday, what was the first thing that you thought?
Super hesitant. Just didn't want to get too excited too quick. Because, it's, and we even had on a couple different coaching threads, we're talking about, did you tell your kids yet? Did you, and it's if you tell them right now and then the rug gets pulled out from underneath you tomorrow, you're adding to the roller coaster of craziness that this whole season has been. So, I was very hesitant. I didn't really send anything out. And then as I saw more and more stuff, obviously the kids are on there too. So I kind of sent something out, listen, we're a go and get ready for it.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I want to stay with you real quick on that. Being able to mention to the kids, because it's been the last couple months, especially the last month and a half, it's been up and down, an emotional roller coaster. 1 minute, everyone's high. Next moment, the DPH just wants to slam it down. And I'm sure for the kids, it's got to be something that they've never experienced and they haven't. So Coach Bruenn, what point was it where you kind of kept certain information away from your players because you didn't want to give them too much too early just to have things go the other way?
Well, I don't think you can hold anything back because it's somehow, some way, everything that they've had these secret meetings where all these great decisions are being made, and somehow it leaks out somewhere, somehow somebody from the media gets a hold of it. So it's not even a matter of keeping things from them. It's a matter of putting it in perspective and kind of guiding them through it and trying to, kind of weather the storm and keep it as level as possible so that they don't have real high highs and low lows. Because it's mentally exhausting at this point. I mean, even myself, I feel like I'm halfway through the season, just completely exhausted. I just want to go to bed. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, to not know whether you're going to coach this season or not. And once again, another shout out to the thread. I mean, we're on there all the time. I take, sometimes I go help my brother out, and I'll take 6 hours off, and I'll come back. There's 135 texts, and I got to read through them all. And they're very supportive, and I think that's what the one good thing. And I think we talked about this the last time. The one good thing coming out of this is I think the coaches supporting other coaches. It's not so much, hey, oh, that guy, he does this, or he wins all those championships. I don't think anybody's thinking like that. Everybody's kind of supporting each other in the coaching field, which is good to see. I mean, a lot of people are very supportive of what's, what coaches are saying and their beliefs and things like that.
I have noticed that on social media a lot, not just with players, but also to the coaches, as you mentioned. Everybody is supporting each other. It doesn't matter if you're an in-state rival or you're someone who you see every year in the playoffs that either they beat your brains in or it's the other way around. Because I think everybody has a collective agreement, which is that they want to see football played. Coach Shea, question for you specifically on that. Was it difficult as far as trying to keep the focus of the players because of, such roller coasters, especially because your roster had such promise and has such promise going into this year?
I mean, we're dealing with minds of teenagers, and us as adults, we have problems digesting some of this. You can only imagine what's going through the mind of a kid, and the big thing that got me when we were, paused, 2 weeks ago, we were talking to these guys about it, and it was just, I thought as collectively as adults, we let the kids down, you know what I mean? They're, we're supposed to be there for them. And the thing I didn't like about it was, coincidentally, it was on a Friday afternoon. So it was like, okay, this is the second time it happened, March the first one, now this, that these kids are just in the wind. I felt I was genuinely bothered by that, and it's just more or less, surprisingly, the kids are resilient. Yeah. You know what I mean? They've actually at times gotten me up, where it's usually the other way around as coaches. So they've been pretty resilient, and like I think we've all agreed, they just want an opportunity to play, to do something. It was great getting back out there this week, not knowing on Monday what we were going to do, or Tuesday when we got out there, and just being out there every day and just being around them. It's a general feeling, and as for a lot of the other stuff with the kids coming back, I mean, we hope we get a chance to play. The kids understand that, and go from there.
Coach Mckinnon, the question I have for you specifically kind of goes into what Lungarini mentioned today, and was what was also mentioned in the piece yesterday in the Hartford Courant and updated today about how there's 3 specific dates that kind of, and I tweeted this out earlier today, that kind of really jump out to me. The first one is August 29th to August 13th, where as long as, the favorite word of 2020 were metrics, as long as the COVID cases are down and they're at a point where the CIAC can feel comfortable, they will allow cohorts, another word that everybody loves to hear this year, and being able to have limited contact. Now, I don't know exactly what he meant by that. I couldn't find an exact I don't know if that meant just limited tackling or blocking or whatever. But for you, when you see a date like that specifically, what came into your thinking?
Well, the first thing is with a game of football, you need to have contact to play the sport. Yeah. Right now we're dealing with the COVID safety aspect of the game, but we're also dealing with the safety aspect of kids got to learn how to hit. They got to learn how to tackle. They have to feel what it's like to fill a gap. They have to feel what it's like to go up for a pass and get hit coming across the middle. So that September 13th date is great because at that point, they can start working on that safety part of the game. And as coaches, we do a lot of off-season studying and best ways to tackle, best ways of hand placement and movement. And the kids need to do that and need to do that consistently. And football, in my eyes, can't be treated like the other sports, to just how violent the game is. And it takes, a lot of time to teach those fundamentals and those safety techniques, keeping your head out of it, keeping your chest up like in a power clean position. So that September 13th date, we got to really start getting after that piece of the game, because when we get to game one, these guys are going to be playing against another team. These guys will be playing a team that's everybody's been cooped up in these cohorts. So now they're just going to get right on that field and start, going at it. And we got to make sure that safety piece of the game's taught. So the kids, they're going to be circling September 13th to start getting back to real football.
To kind of steal, what you mentioned about tackling and being able to get the repetitions and also the technique, because in not playing for a long time, you kind of lose that and you got to shake off the rust. I think it was Bill Polian who said years ago that even NFL guys need to have tackling drills and such for at least 2 to 3 weeks, just because if you don't have that, the injury risk goes extremely high, because like you mentioned, leading with the head, being able to get the head position, because even before COVID, it was all about concussions and whatnot. And you don't want to have that start to creep in to a season when already COVID has done well enough, Coach.
Yeah. I mean, it's, football is one of those games where you go out there, and you line up and it's time to get after the other team. The other team wants to get after you. And it's a great game, great experience. And we need to make sure we keep these proper techniques being taught. You can't just take 2 years off, expect kids to go out there, be able to tackle properly again. The freshmen coming up, the JV guys coming up to the varsity level. That's the part of the game that makes it so special. And we got to really be able to do that as coaches for these kids playing the game.
Coach Bruenn, same question to you. Did you kind of get the same feelings as Coach Mckinnon when you saw the date from August 29th to September 13th?
I mean, we already have limits on, when you can put a helmet on, when you can put shoulder pads on. I think that this preseason is kind of set up a little bit differently in the sense, I think there's an extra week, and there's definitely a lot more guidelines to what you can and cannot do. Just like he said, you need a certain amount of time to teach those skills. They're not, you can go play backyard football. Nobody's going to critique your tackling skill when you go play, backyard football. And everybody thinks it's, hey, that's just what it is. You just jump on somebody. And that's probably one of the more dangerous aspects of it, is when somebody doesn't know how to make a proper tackle or a proper block. And those are the kids that are going to get hurt. That's why it's important. Like, I stress to our kids from the time they're freshmen, like, you have to stay with us. You have to put 4 years in. If you don't, you're really setting yourself back a whole year. So, I mean, the dates that we have, when I first looked at them, I was like, whoa, this doesn't look right. And then as you kind of investigate a little bit more, I can see the progression that they took. Do I like the cohort of 10 on a sport where you play with 11 on a side? Probably not. There's a lot of things that some of those rules and some of those guidelines that they've set forth make it extremely restrictive, almost to the point where you can't practice. You're not allowing us to practice in the way in which we do. And we're creative people. We're going to find a way to get it done. We're going to find a way. And we've already started, Pat, hey, how are you going to work on this skill? How are you going to? So it's not like you're out on an island, because, coaches will offer their advice. They're not going to say, hey, I know exactly how it should be done, because there's probably about 1 million different ways to get things done. And this is just another piece of adversity that we're going to work through. I mean, it's no different than if your star tailback goes down injured and you're looking and you got some little scrawny sophomore got to play tailback. You're going to find a way to get through that. And so whatever dates they gave us, we're going to work through them anyways. But like I said, I did think they were a little restrictive as far as some of the rules. I thought the dates were decently spaced out.
Coach Shea, you being a former Naughty guy, and I know in my times of broadcasting in the NVL, the one thing Naugatuck, even the days when they haven't been good, the one thing they could always do was tackle, and tackle well. So is this kind of a concern for you as far as, again, when you see the dates, knowing that you need that time. And a lot of the time could be spent just on tackling alone and not being able to get the necessary reps in other places.
Well, man, I think it comes down to how organized you are in practice. You know, it comes down to what you got as a staff and just basically what you do, you know, and it like Jason said, it's not an overnight thing. You know, you got to see how far kids come as from freshmen to when they're seniors. You know, very rarely you're going to get that kid just to jump in for 1 year and be that sound or that, you know, gifted or whatnot. You know, football is like the big process. You know, you got to start, you know, and where you end is where you end. But it's all about how you practice. You know what I mean? I think, I know we talk about it, you know, we feel we're pretty organized, and it's just, you know, if you have good assistants around you, you know, and your kids buy in, I think you can teach them just about anything.
And being a head coach, you have to be organized. You kind of need to have that structure to be able to say, okay, we're going to do this at this time, this at that time. And Coach Shea, you kind of alluded to that earlier prior to when I started asking these questions, because now it's come to a point where it's like every day your schedule that you came in to, let's say, for example, you have practice on Monday or on Tuesday, but then Monday news comes out about something. So now you have to adjust on the fly. And it's like, you really have to be able to find, okay, this is what's going to work on this day and that day. So, you know, great observation, be able to make that.
Yeah. I mean, and some of it's trial and error too. What you may run in practice today, you might realize as you're leaving the field. You know, I've done it at times. Just look at my assistants and they're like, yeah, that's out. We're going to do it this way tomorrow. And just, you got to look at yourself sometimes too, and just, you know, figure it out.
Coach Mckinnon, next day I want to go over is the September 13th to September 20th. And again, if the metrics are going to be low and the cases are low and the CIAC approves, they will allow, and I never thought I would say this, high-risk football activities. Again, was not very specific as far as Longarina on what activities that could be, so I don't know the extent of that. But when you hear that, does that kind of make you think, okay, well, what activities can we do and what can't we do?
You know, I think throughout this whole process, we've been thinking that daily. What can we do? What can't we do? Things have been changing. We're hearing one thing, seeing a tweet on another thing, you know, things being pulled back. So going into that week with high-risk activities, you know, my hope is they define what that is a week beforehand or 2 weeks beforehand. So as coaches, you know, we have to be very organized. We can't get that information the night before. You know, if we do, yeah, we'd be up all night making the plans, but we need to know what high risk to them means, because definitions could be different of high risk activities based on coaches, based on administrators, all of that. And we got to get to football by that point. If we're opening October 2nd, we need to get to football by that point and start playing the game. And that's what our passion is. That's what we all love to do. And we got to get out there. We got to play ball. So if high risk to me, they say is a sport of football, at that point, I would expect we're full go football. That would be my view at it.
Coach Bruenn, same question.
Oh, I think I agree. I mean, to me, if I was to define it right now, you know, in the atmosphere that we're in, to me, high risk would mean, you know, that you're going to be within 6 feet of somebody, that you're going to actually have blocking and tackling and things like that. So, you know, like Matt said, at that point, I mean, if we're not allowed to, and this is what I was talking about with restrictions, if you're not allowed to practice the game of football, it's very difficult to play the game of football. I mean, you can't just go out there after a week and think that kids are going to be safe. It just doesn't work like that. You know, so I just think that, you know, once again, if they want to define it, that's fine. But to me, at that point, you're a full go football. And honestly, I would say that's almost even too late. I think it probably should have been earlier. And that's what I was talking about earlier with the dates. I mean, we have to push you're going to have to push some things forward at some point. You know, at some point, you just got to make a decision, go with it. And you know what, if it becomes a bad decision, then you got to live with it. We've all, I don't know. I don't want to talk about these two great coaches, but we've all made bad decisions. You know, 4th and 1, you ran sneak and they stuffed you. That's a bad decision. Now you could kick the field goal, but you went for it instead. We've all made bad decisions. We got to live with them. You know, and then we have to have people from the media comes, hey, you know, coach, in the 4th quarter when you were down 3, why didn't you just kick the field goal and tie it up and go? You got to have answers for that. Hey, this is what I believe. This was the metrics at the time. This is what we want to do. So, at some point, these people that are making decisions have to step forward and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going to make it look like 11-on-11 football. We're not going to discuss 7-on-7 anymore. And we're going to move forward. And that's very simple. And then if it blows up in our face and we have huge breakouts all over football locker rooms, all over the state, and we have to shut it down, then you shut it down. At least we know that you've given 100% towards playing football. You haven't tried to skirt around it. You haven't tried to manipulate it and change it to something it's not. And that's really the end of it.
No, I agree with you. I think, at the end of the day, as long as you mentioned, they try 100% and they're all, a full go. If they're not 2 feet in and you have 1 foot out the door, then as we've seen, and I've said this many times, it almost seems like a game of with the CIAC and the DPH, like, no, you do it. No, you do it. No, you do it. It's like somebody make a decision. And even now, hearing what Lungarini and the CIAC said today, I still really didn't get an answer about if there's going to be a season or not, because it's like fluid. Every week we'll talk to the DPH, and then September 21st is the cutoff date about, okay, there's going to be a season or there won't be a season. But, staying with you, Coach Bruenn, not being able to get an answer still to this day, you had to be fuming just a tad.
A little bit. I mean, I just think it's like, like Tim said earlier, we're very organized people. There's not too many, at least from the people I know, there's not too many, very unorganized football coaches. We make plans, we stick with our plans, and we live with our plans, and so for you to constantly tell me like, well, hey, you're going to start, you're going to stop. Hey, you're going to start. Here's another date. Take this date. It doesn't work well for me. Actually, about 3 weeks ago, I think I had about 6 hours sleep in 3 nights.
Yeah.
So they're talking about the kids' mentalities and stuff. It's wearing on the coaches too. This is not how we live our life. And we're being forced to play this game of this wishy-washy game of, are we or aren't we, instead of just making a decision and go with it.
And Coach Shea, I'm coming to you here, and I know you're not a scientist, but the reason why I bring this up is because Coach Bruenn, gave me a softball right down the middle, and I'm going to hit a home run with it right here. So he mentions about the sleep part and not being able to get sleep. That affects the brain, which then affects the mind, and then you're starting to hallucinate. And why I bring that up is because coaches are not the only one dealing with this as far as the struggle of are we playing or are we not playing, but it's also the players, the mental health aspect, the psychological, aspect of just dealing with all this plus COVID. And the problem I've had with DPH is that they're so concerned with COVID, as they should be, but at the same time, I don't know if they're taking in the effect of what this decision of just not making a decision is doing. In as far as with the coaches and the players. Am I wrong?
Well, I think what they're primarily looking at is the COVID aspect, because that's what they're doing. I think, more of us on the ground level, the coaches, some of our administrators, we're all looking at the bigger, broader picture, which is, the overall well-being, the kids' health. We're talking about ample practice time to prevent physical injuries on top of all this stuff going on, and it's not easy, and like Jay was saying, as coaches, we make unpopular decisions all the time, but the kids, the parents, everybody will respect you more if you they may not like it, but if you own up to it, and if you own it, to a teenager, like, listen, this is what happened, it's on me, it's my fault, whatever, they'll tend to respect you and move on from that. I think that's the big thing now. We're not getting that. We're getting too much, finger pointing and stuff. And it's not good for a lot of these kids' brains. You're right. I am not a scientist. But just seeing them interact, on the field, even the little amount of time we were out there this week, from answering, text messages and whatnot for them wanting to know the why, and then just seeing them out there, you could see they're a little more excited. Like a few weeks ago when they said, we're playing, and then we announced our schedule. Kids went nuts. It was great. It felt like a Friday. It felt like a Thursday, in the fall. They get ready to play on a Friday night. It was that kind of vibe in the middle of the summer, which was awesome. then the downfall was, 2 days later they were in the boss game. So we were all a little wary going out there about that this week. But again, just getting out there, we got out there on Tuesday telling the kids, we're back for now. And then today when I was like, well, we're out here for now, and we're going to go all we got until they tell us no. And so, I think that's the approach we're gonna take now. And I think all of us coaches, as if we're there for them, the kids they'll respond, and they need to be around us more than just being sent home. I think because we're around them so much during the school year, all the time, really. And when it's missing, like it is now, it's tough. It's tough on everybody, and we just want to fix it somehow.
And you mentioning the aspect about how the players need to have some sort of structure. They need to have something around them to be able to, because I know Coach McCullis, who I had in the first roundtable discussion for head coaches, he kept alluding to the fact that these kids have not had structure since COVID came about. Right. And not being able to have that is one of those situations where you start to lose kids either to football or to other things that starts to affect their life. Coach Mckinnon, I go to you on this one. Do you think that, let's say the season does not happen, just hypothetically, of course, do you think that the next job for a coach, understandably, the family is more important first and foremost, but you in some way kind of have to be there for the kids because they need somebody?
I mean, head football coach and assistant football coaches, they take on this job, not for the paycheck, but for, making these kids men, teaching them life lessons, and we'll never turn our back on them no matter what the circumstances are. If hypothetically the season did not happen, we'd be there for them, help handle their emotions, help them get through school, because that will be the big challenge. If they pull the plug on fall sports, and some kids rely on sports for education, you're going to see a lot of behavior and downfall of grades and things going on. I hate to say it, but if they're banking on that since March and it keeps getting pulled from them, it's going to have that type of result. And if you see the articles out there on mental health with kids and, thinking about suicide or having a lot of anxiety or having a lot of depression, as football coaches, we're going to take that on and help these kids out. And the season is what they're holding on to. They know in the back of their mind, it's been said, it may not happen. They know that. But as coaches, we're going to keep them optimistic that it will happen. And for some reason it doesn't, we're going to be right there for them. Because we're not teams, we're families. Yeah. And amongst coaches, we're always there for each other. We have a coaching thread, shout out to the thread. And one of us gets upset, needs to vent, we have each other. And these players have each other, and we bring that back to them. So we know how important it is as adults, as coaches, and then we give that back to our players. And that's a huge part of it. We will never turn our back on them, season or no season.
You know what? And we'll end it right then and there. Guys, thanks so much for being able to come on. I really do appreciate it. Coach Mckinnon, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Chris. And, stay safe. Appreciate it. And let's play football.
Coach Shea, Mr. Former Noggy himself could probably step on the field right now for Naugatuck, and he'd be welcome with open arms. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Plainville, Blue Devils. Thanks for having me. It's a blast as always talking about stuff. Anytime.
Coach Bruenn, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you get your key to the city at some point in the near future.
Maybe. I don't know. It might be maybe too much pressure. I probably already have one. But no, thanks for having us. It's always great to get out there. We enjoy what you do, and the fact that you're promoting high school football and having all these great coaches on it's awesome. It gives us somewhere to go speak about what we do and let other people know what's going on. Everybody thinks football is just there's like 22 guys and they go bang their heads back and forth and the coach just blows a whistle and yells all the time. And we actually are people. We have feelings and we do other things besides yell and scream and blow whistles. So it's great that you come out here because we can discuss some huge important factors and matters in Connecticut.
Yep.
Hey, I'm just the guy who's asking the questions. You guys are the ones that make the show, and it's been great to be able to have you on, being able to share not just your wisdom, but also kind of what you guys go through. And I think that, I know I'm extending a little bit here, but I think being able to have the coaches in particular and to be able to kind of, like you said, Coach Bruenn, shed light on, okay, they just don't blow whistles and just say, all right, go there, tackle as hard as you can, all right, practice is over. There's more to it. And I think Coach Shea, and I think as well as Coach McKinnon and yourself mentioned, the structure aspect and being able to have a platform to be able to get things done that day, but also adjusting. I mean, look, you slept like 6 hours in 3 days. I mean, people don't know that unless somebody says it, and you did. You know,
it's just a stressful time for everybody.
But, you know, I hope things get better for you guys in the near future, but best of luck the rest of the way. That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, special edition, the CCC Roundtable. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm on a journey. Find them all. Have a good one, everybody.